Hey YNR fans! Waving hand, welcome to YNR Trends, your go-to spot for the juiciest Young and the Restless updates, shocking spoilers, and all the drama you can't stop talking about. From surprise returns to scandalous twists, we break it all down for you, every day. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right into Genoa City's hottest gossip. According to Thursday, August 21st spoilers for The Young and the Restless, Victor Newman makes a startling decision, and Kyle Abbott might be facing his final opportunity. Let's discuss what's upcoming on YNR since Devin Winters will also receive some unfavorable news. Nate Hastings will first update Devin on the most recent turmoil involving Audra Charles. When Nate tells Devin about Claire Newman's terrible charges, he will also mention that Audra is denying any involvement and is placing all the blame on Kyle. Devin won't be shocked by Audra's behavior, even though he won't enjoy that Nate is going through another crisis. From Devin's point of view, Audra working for Victor on a scheme to seduce Kyle and publicly kissing him in a restaurant will be ideal for her. Devin might encourage Nate to examine himself and consider his innermost beliefs. Nate may acknowledge that he believes Audra is guilty, in which case he will need to determine the implications for their relationship. Nate might decide that he at least needs Audra to be honest if he and she are to have any chance of surviving. Audra may be trying to save what remains of this romance before Nate forces the whole truth out of her later this week. Jack Abbott is going to give Kyle some wise counsel. Diane Jenkins Abbott and Jack are both worried that Kyle won't tell Claire the complete story of what happened in Nice. Will Kyle be persuaded by Jack to cease ignoring the more embarrassing parts of the trap he put Audra in? Since he kissed Audra several times and climbed on top of her while partially nude, Kyle's claim that nothing happened isn't entirely accurate. Perhaps in part because she senses that Kyle is holding back, Claire is having some reservations about him. Keep an eye out for Kyle's next move because this might be his last opportunity to come clean before Audra retaliates. Victor will make a shocking decision in the interim that will undoubtedly cause a stir. Will this be a business strategy or something more intimate? Although Victor might reveal something shocking about Kane Ashby, he might also inform Claire that he is finally ending their relationship. Victor may surprise Claire if he permits her to continue her life, since Victoria Newman's talk appeared to have an emotional impact on him. Naturally, that does not imply Victor will fulfill his pledge. Furthermore, according to the agreement Kyle signed, Victor will undoubtedly take revenge if Kyle hurts Claire. Stay tuned for more love catastrophes on The Young and the Restless, according to spoilers. The glass walls of Kyle Abbott's office suddenly felt more like a prison than a mark of distinction as he sat there and stared at them. It all came down to this one moment after he had made so many mistakes, experienced so many near misses, and made so many frantic attempts to prove himself to himself and his family. He was aware that his opportunities were dwindling. His confidence, the subtle swagger that used to carry him through boardrooms, had begun to erode, and every action he took felt like it was being scrutinized. He reflected about Harrison, Summer, and the innumerable times he had vowed to avoid making the same mistakes as his father, but he could see the pattern recurring like a curse passed down through the Abbott family. It felt different this time, so Kyle squeezed his palms together, knuckles white. This time, it was about whether he still had a place in Genoa City at all, not just about allegiance to his family or business. Victor Newman, in the meantime, was making a choice that would rock the town as a whole. He had watched the turmoil around the Abbotts, the Winters family, and the complicated relationships that changed every day with patience, possibly more patience than anybody had anticipated. However, Victor was never a man to wait indefinitely, and patience had its limitations. Like a predator determining if the prey in front of him is worth sparing, he sat behind his desk at Newman Enterprises, his gaze icy but piercing. His quiet had a sense of finality as he examined the reports before him, the proof of treachery, partial truths, and careless decisions made by those who ought to have known better. He was sick of seeing children waste possibilities they had no right to waste and sick of seeing weakness impair judgment. Not only would his startling decision alter Kyle's future, but it would also have an impact on Devin, the Abbotts, and Genoa City's entire power structure. There were repercussions for everyone when Victor Newman took action. With his phone held against his ear and his brow furrowed further with each word, Devin Hamilton was pacing his apartment. It was personal as well as professional. Devin had put a lot of effort into building Chancellor Winters strong, believing in family and that things could last with the correct commitment. But whether it was in his job, relationships, or personal life, negative news always found its way to him. His voice was trapped between incredulity and frustration after this most recent call, which made his heart drop. The ramifications rushed through his head, not only for him but also for Abby, Dominic, and the whole family, which always seemed to be put to the test by fate. Devin briefly felt as like he was failing Neil as he reflected on all that his father had taught him about integrity and tenacity. The awful news threatened to reverse all of the progress he believed he had made, and it was more than simply a setback. Later that night, Kyle entered the Grand Phoenix with a lot on his mind that he was unable to stop. For a brief moment, Kyle pondered whether they were both bearing burdens too big for their age when he saw Devin at the bar, a glass unfinished in front of him. Despite having aspirations ahead of them and legacies behind them, both men bore the burden of unachievable standards and were expected to take the lead. Kyle hesitated, wanting to talk, perhaps to close the uneasy gap that had developed between them. Devin was obviously not in the mood for talk based on his expression, and Kyle was reluctant to acknowledge how much he needed direction, help, or whatever that would keep him from losing everything. Rather, he wondered how long he could continue to act as though he still had control while sitting a few chairs away and gazing at his reflection in the polished counter. Shortly later, Victor arrived at society, and even before he spoke, his presence commanded the room. He caught sight of Devin and Kyle, and for a little instant he gave himself permission to be silent. He liked to see others writhe, to see how his reputation came before him, how his shadow made them uneasy. When he did appear, it was with the cool assurance of a man who already knew how every conversation he was about to have would turn out. Knowing that this was not a social visit, the younger man shivered almost imperceptibly as he put a hand on Kyle's shoulder. Even Devin felt the weight of Newman's scrutiny as he looked up and met Victor's gaze with the calm defiance he had inherited from years of standing alone. Without raising his voice, Victor stated unequivocally that decisions had been taken and that only he would determine the course of Genoa City's future. In addition to being a warning, his comments also contained a verdict that made Devin's heart race and Kyle's stomach turn. Victor's amazing decision and Devin's unfortunate news clashed in unexpected ways. It became evident that Devin's greatest fears were being realized as Victor outlined his plans to withdraw support from certain projects and reorganize relationships in a way that benefited those he judged deserving. The bad news wasn't only about balance sheet numbers, it was about losing power and seeing his work's foundation fall apart under Victor's control. Devin felt deceived not only by business associates but also by the cosmos. He had lost too much and fought too hard to see it fall apart now. As he fought back against Victor, reminding him that not everyone submitted to Newman rule, his voice became forceful and his jaw hardened. Ever the strategist, Victor simply grinned, understanding that resistance frequently fell more quickly when it was hot. Kyle understood that this might be his final opportunity to establish himself as he sat between the two forces like a guy caught in a storm. As soon as Victor turned to face him, Kyle realized what was expected of him, not in words, but in anticipation. He was forced to pick a side. He needed to demonstrate whether he would succeed or fail, whether he would be a guy who stumbled like too many abbots before him or one who stood steady like his grandfather John. Kyle knew that if he left this time, there wouldn't be anything left to save, even though the silence was oppressive and the decision was intolerable. Victor's incredible decision was made to determine who was resilient, not only to gain control. Devin's bad news was more than simply a challenge, it was a test of his ability to bounce back from a blow that could have destroyed him. Additionally, it was Kyle's final fleeting opportunity to demonstrate that he could withstand the flames without burning. Nick met Adam at Victor and Nikki's property, and he informed Nick that he had some news regarding Kane. Nick was aware that he owned half the town. When Adam told him that Kane had met with Billy, he wasn't shocked. Adam also told Kane's meeting with Phyllis to his half-brother. Adam brought up Kane's French games. 3 people died: Chance, Damien, and Kane's weird assistant, and Nick pointed out that he might have been the 4th, proving it wasn't a game. Nick remembered how Kane's every word enthralled Phyllis and Billy. When Phyllis realized what was happening in France, Nick was shocked that she could turn her back on everyone. Nick was warned not to be naive by Victor. Victor said, "You and I know that Phyllis would sell her firstborn. In fact, she'd sell her whole brood if it meant she gets what she wants." According to Nick, Phyllis would endure the hellfire for her kids. "The devil doesn't feel the heat," Victor joked. Nick noted that if Kane took over Jabot, it would have an impact on Summer. Victor was advised by Adam to abandon his campaign against Kyle. Adam was authorized by Victor to publish the pieces on Kane. Then came Victoria. In order to talk to their father about something, she requested her brothers to go. Nick promised to check up on them later as he and Adam departed. Vicky chastised her father for attempting to separate Kyle and Claire by using Audra. She summarized the strategy Victor and Audra had devised to entice Kyle to leave Claire. Vicky mentioned that Kyle didn't want anything to do with that Jezebel. Victor used a religious allusion in his remark about his daughter. Vicky mentioned the instances in which Victor meddled in her romantic affairs. "I only did that to keep Vicky safe," Victor shrugged, adding that he was doing the same with Claire. Victor questioned his daughter about if his attempts to meddle in her romantic life had been appropriate. Vicky brought up the fact that he almost destroyed their relationship. She desired to break up contact with him. Vicky was the object of Victor's adoration. "Claire is not a child," she pointed out. Vicky felt that Victor's present behavior would destroy his relationship with Claire. Victor insisted that his actions were motivated by love. Victor, not Kyle, is the one threatening to shatter Clary's heart, according to Vicky. Even though Victoria speculated that Kyle might harm Claire, she pleaded with her father to overlook this. She warned him that he might lose Claire if he didn't let her find her way. The father and daughter gave each other a hug. Billy had already ordered Jack some empanadas when they met at society. Jack requested that Kane let him make his own decisions. Jack went on to say that Nice had excellent food and accommodations, but he still didn't understand why he had invited everyone to his chateau. According to Kane, his plans to meet one-on-one with each person there were altered by the sad events that transpired. Kane expressed regret for Carter's behavior and said he would have to live with the consequences of what transpired there for the rest of his life. He gave Jack his word that he posed no threat to him. "If I thought you were a threat to my physical well-being, I would not be sitting opposite you at a table that was set with cutlery," Jack said. When Kane's plan became hazy, Jack pressed for specifics. Abbott Communications came up, Kane said. He had a feeling Jack wasn't interested in a partnership with Abbott Communications. "You also thought I wanted empanadas. You seem to be keen on reading me," Jack said. Kane said that he and Billy were practically family because of their shared past. "Does it not?" "No, it does not," Jack pointed out concisely. Jack advised Kane to leave town, saying, "Whatever short time you had as Billy's brother was based on a lie." Kane stated that winning popularity competitions was not something he was interested in. Then Kane invited everyone to his apartment, and Jack wondered why. Kane was asked what he really desired by Jack. "Why grow a firm that is currently doing well?" Jack tried to bring out to Kane that his chances of getting Lily back weren't very good and advised him to enjoy his newfound fortune and status. "I have very clear vision," Kane remarked. Kane would do well, according to Jack, to remember the spectrum of power and tenacity of the individuals he was competing against. Despite saying that he was no longer hungry, Jack thanked Billy for the empanadas. Sally was on the phone in Chancellor Park, organizing a launch party. Billy, completely distracted, came over and kissed her. According to Billy, he informed Jack that Kane intended to exploit him to seize control of Jabot. "That was a smart concept," Sally agreed. Billy feared that Cain was unstoppable. Sally inquired as to if Billy was still thinking about assisting Cain in stealing Jabot. Billy claimed that even though he would be on the inside, his family would view it as a betrayal if he started working with Cain. When Sally learned that Billy would not side with Cain, she felt relieved. Billy claimed that Jack had advised him to spy on Cain. Since Cain's previous scheme resulted in the deaths of 3 people, Sally thought it was a horrible idea. Billy claimed he doesn't hold Cain responsible for the fatalities in France. He went on to say that Jill had complicated his relationship with Cain. Sally declared that she was now prepared to start Abbott Communications. She questioned whether this was fair to her and whether that would not occur. Billy apologized, saying it wasn't fair to her. Sally claimed that an apology was insufficient. She requested his resignation so she could take over Abbott Communications. Billy informed Sally that she was correct. Sally received his blessing. They kissed each other. Adam told Billy at Crimson Lights that he thought Vicky wanted to discuss Claire and Kyle with Victor. Nick claimed to have witnessed firsthand Victor's attempts to control Vicky's romantic life. Victor had done it to both him and Adam, Nick observed. Claire shouldn't have to miss it, according to Adam. Then Billy came in. After what transpired in Nice, he remarked it was nice to see Nick again. Sally helped Nick, and Nick thanked her. After what transpired over there, Adam questioned why anyone would want to be associated with Cain. Billy worried whether he was being followed around by a private eye employed by the Newmans. Adam stated that he ought to have kept the fact that he had met with Cain confidential. Some people are better at maintaining secrets than others, Billy joked. Adam pondered whether Billy was talking about him and Chelsea being together while they were still together. Billy claimed that everyone had moved past Adam's lack of moral character. He questioned why meeting Billy was important to Adam. Nick immediately inquired as to whether Billy was collaborating with Cain. Billy questioned why Adam and Nick would believe he would tell them what he was doing. Jack, meanwhile, came home furious. Cain was staying put and getting ready for war with everyone, Jack informed Diane. Cain had a lot of confidence, but Jack claimed their meeting was courteous. According to Jack, Cain desired his portion of Abbott Communications. He made an effort to persuade him to leave town, but his counsel was ignored. Diane reasoned that they might gain from Billy posing as Cain's ally. Jack was worried about entrusting Billy with Jabot's future. Diane pointed out that Billy would not be trustworthy. Diane advised them to worry about Cain and have faith in Billy. Jack surmised that Cain's pain stemmed from Lai's rejection, but he didn't think he could win her back by consolidating all the businesses into a single behemoth under his control. According to Diane, Cain believed that the world would despise him if he couldn't win Lily's love. Billy assured Nick that nothing he did would harm his and Vicky's children. Nick declared that he would view Billy as an enemy if he assisted Cain. After he attempted to save Nick's life in Nice, Billy joked that he believed they were friends. In a hypothetical question, Nick asked Billy if he anticipated them getting coffee and playing hoops. Billy stated that a shakedown was not what he wanted. He emphasized that when Victor seized Chancellor, he wasn't worried about Billy's children. Billy insisted that Victor had no interest in Chancellor. The only reason he wanted it was to allow Nicky to dress up as CEO. Nick yelled at Billy to stop talking negatively about his mother. Nick made a threat to eject Billy's teeth. Billy wasn't worth it, Adam told his brother. Billy joked, "I am worth it, Adam," he asked Nick to try his hardest. "Adam's right," responded Nick. Billy called out the Newman brothers for being bullies, saying, "You're not worth it." Nick thanked Adam for controlling Billy after he departed. Cain contacted Lai at Chancellor Park in the meanwhile and proposed that they meet since they had something to discuss.